Hi, I'm Brad, and I'm here to make a fool of myself. Or not. The last long form video I actually made was a reaction to some, of my sources getting some correct information and giving me some also incorrect information or information that needed to be updated related to controllers shipping with the Meta Cambria headset. Because again, that source did give me incorrect information about the Meta accounts and them being about to be announced, but some incorrect information about the shipment of the controllers with the headset that Bosworth, Andrew Bosworth, CTO of Meta, who's on vacation right now, he confirmed that the Meta Cambria controllers will ship with the headset. So ever since that video, I've been kind of scrounging together, hoping that my sources can give me an indication of what's going on. So I wrote a long article on my website, sadlyinreality.com, and I'm basically going to summarize and recap all the things I wrote in that article that my sources have gave me, which would basically be what I seriously would like to call here the final Meta Quest Pro or Meta Cambria analysis. My final leak dump. I know it's become sort of a meme among my viewers about me saying it's going to be the final thing of a leak, but I really am pretty sure that everything we got in this summary is literally all I'm going to report from now on pertaining to leaks for the Cambria headset. Here's just like kind of my actual article written out so I can kind of go over and remind myself not to forget anything. But we're just going to hop right in, especially the big thing that was written in my dump. That sounds funny, in my dump. Was this. You might previously remember that I leaked the Meta Cambria HMD CAD images, and here we now have the Starlet controller CAD images and its beauty. Honestly, these controllers are very, very fancily engineered. In fact, I'm more excited about the controllers than the HMD itself. Not that the HMD won't be probably a great experience. I've heard people say it's a nice experience that have tried prototypes of it. But the controllers really impressed me, and I'm just going to go deep into some of the feature sets you expect for the Cambria controllers, which have been something we didn't get that many leaks for because most of the work has been finalizing the HMD. So yeah, let's just jump right into that. So I do want to confirm that these controllers are called Starlet. I mean, we've known that code name for a while, and they will ship with the Meta Cambria HMD. There were some issues internally about a no-go or go situation for these controllers at the same time of launch. So what my source told me wasn't exactly incorrect information. It was a bit of a coin flip where really just a lot of internal struggles to decide, should we get the headset out early because there was actually some issues with the production and some other things related to the controllers that they were worried they won't be able to get it out on time. But they ended up actually recently pushing the production of the controllers to ship with Cambria. There was also a big exciting thing that my sources have told me about this. Again, the same sources have been mostly correct about everything they've given me. They said that Meta has actually been trying and succeeding for the most part in making these controllers compatible with the Quest 2 if users wanted to buy them separately with the dock. In fact, because that they were originally planning not to ship these controllers with the Cambria HMD, there already are plans in place to sell the controllers and dock in a separate bundle. And while this is not confirmed yet, because there's still some issues to work over, if they did sell the controllers and dock separately to be used with Quest 2, my sources believe that would be about a $300 bundle for the controllers and dock. The issues remaining to get these controllers to work with Quest 2 are mostly related to getting firmware updates to the controllers themselves. These controllers are very, they have their own SoC, and they will probably get more updates regularly than probably the actual Meta Quest 2 controllers that are way simpler than these. And usually the way that they upgrade the firmware controllers for these devices is they pack the new firmware within the actual Quest HMD firmware itself to automatically update the controllers when that firmware update happens. And currently the Starlet controller is doing the same thing with Cambria. Once a Cambria firmware update happens and there's controllers connected to that Cambria, they're assuming that the Starlet, because I don't think the Quest 2 controllers will work with Cambria, and that will update the device. And with the Quest 2, obviously there's no sort of infrastructure in place to have a actual built-in firmware upgrade for the Cambria controllers if connected to Quest 2. So they're kind of exploring different ways they can fix that. I'm guessing the best way to do it is probably have an application at the beginning if they cannot rework this whole controller firmware upgrade system that they currently have. But most of the other stuff seemed to be working pretty well. So be hopeful if you're interested in these controllers and don't want to upgrade to the expensive Meta Cambria headset. But yeah, we have the CAD here, and we're going to talk about some of the features that I can at least confirm will be in this device based on the CAD images of what my sources have told me. Everything I say in this video, again, is finalized information or at least predictions. Obviously, these things can be incorrect because I'm just basically being a messenger of what sources have told me and things that I see here, and some stuff related to firmware data mines and stuff like that. Nothing is official until Meta announces it, but we can still have fun leaking stuff, So what has been already known for a while is the controllers actually include 3 cameras each with their own SoC, and these cameras are meant to do their own SLAM tracking, which means they do not have to require the headset to know where the controllers are at all times. They have some pretty beefy SoCs to do this in each controller, which makes the controllers considerably more expensive and take up way more power than the Quest 2 controllers with their little AA battery requirements. So due to the fact that they're using constantly way more power than the Quest 2 controllers, they are not adding the ability to replace a battery, similar to what you're used to, and they will not last, a month or two like the Quest 2 controllers usually do. They're packing around a 3200 milliamp battery per controller that is rechargeable via the dock that is bundled with Cambria and the controller's separate bundle if that comes to market. You just place the controllers on the dock. There's some contacts on one of these images here you can see, and it is supposed to charge relatively fast. There's quite a bit more haptics within this controller itself. There's a couple types of haptics that are really related to vibration within this controller, and there's actually 3 of these vibration haptics built in per controller itself. There's one LRA actuator inside the main triggers for a reactive vibration. So, when you are pushing something or you're shooting a gun, even though it's not a gaming focused controller, those triggers will be able to vibrate alone by themselves. There's also another LRA actuator underneath what is the thumb rest. So basically this green part right here. So when you push down on that area, there will also be an own dedicated actuator to make a vibration if you're doing a pinching effect on the controller itself. One thing I noticed about the CAD image, and I actually asked my source, and this is not in my article, this is exclusive to this video actually, but you'll notice here that this green thing that's under the thumb rest kind of looks like a touchpad. And I was asking if that was actually the plan, and what my sources have told me is that early on prototypes, they were planning to actually have full-on swipe and full-on touchpad features for this thing. The hardware is there, but they actually de-scoped that feature, and it's now mostly for actually pressing against, again, like for a pinch or press feature. So yeah, we always wondered if they would do a touchpad because it kind of slopes down there, and we got the information on that. So that explains why there is a actuator under that little pad thing to give more feedback. I wonder if one day they might update the controller with a firmware upgrade to add more capabilities to do the things that they have quote unquote de-scoped. Finally, there's one VCM actuator in the handle near the battery. So VCM compared to LRA is basically a voice coil motor, way higher precision vibration haptics than our LRAs, and it's what I like to call HD haptics. Any of the more interesting texture-based or higher quality haptics would be in the handle of this controller while you're doing different things. So again, a lot of vibration haptics within this controller. There was also one more feature that I was surprised to hear about, and I was told before by another source before I was got in contact with my best source. And they were saying at the bottom of the controller, bottom of the handle, that there was some sort of sensor that would be useful for drawing things on a desk for VR or AR for productivity reasons, similar to what a stylus pen or an Apple Pencil has. So I asked my source if that was true, and he actually did confirm to me that yes, the bottom of Cambria's handle has a pressure sensor that you can replace the lanyard attachment and put a stylus so you can actually do some interesting drawing techniques with the controller on a desk or something. Very fascinating, just another added piece of technology in this giant thing we have here. And it really kind of opens the door, in my opinion, for other accessories that might be able to use that pressure sensitivity for possibly other things. So you also have to remember that when I'm going back talking about the vibration, all the haptics they have for that, all the high quality haptics, if they actually do have a stylus function where you're drawing in VR, which is actually there's a huge use case for drawing and art in VR already and AR eventually, then you can imagine that the high quality haptics will be able to give the sensation that you're drawing against a paper, even if it's floating in midair. So that's a neat little thing. Again, very excited to see what they do with that sensor that's apparently in this controller. As far as the rest of the stuff goes for the controller, again, I think it's a very high quality piece of hardware. They will be noticeably heavier because they have all these things packed in than the Quest 2 controllers. Some people have said greater than 50 grams and other stuff like that, but I personally like heavier controllers. I think more heft is useful, but I know for some use cases, maybe lighter controllers are beneficial. Now let's finalize everything about the actual headset itself, the Meta Quest Pro or Cambria, whatever you want to call it at this point. Basically, I speculated for a couple videos that Meta was going to counter-rotate their displays to get a higher vertical FOV. So again, usually displays are like this, square or rectangular, and they're just literally linearly up and down. Well, a lot of headsets are trying to sort of counter-rotate them to get the higher FOV with the diagonal there. And I asked my sources about this, and they did confirm to me that yes, Cambria is going to counter-rotate their displays at a 21-degree angle toward each other. Again, there's a lot of benefits to do this, not only just the fact that you get vertical FOV with better anti-aliasing of the pixels and rendering techniques, but it also helps with overall production costs of the displays because they don't have to be bigger because you're just rotating them because you can keep the same size. Make sense? Yeah. But some really interesting information I learned about the displays for the first time from my sources is we knew for a while that these headsets were using mini LED LCD panels. Again, it's just a type of LCD where they put a bunch of backlighting zones behind on the backlight so you can sort of turn off the areas that are supposed to be dark so you don't have that gray instead of pure blacks that usually you expect from OLED, and LCD has always had that issue. There's nothing really new about the information there except one thing. So these are codenamed Tianjin 3 panels, and I was told that they will have a quantum dot layer added to them to improve the color gamut of these mini LED displays. Again, quantum dots are just a technology you mostly hear about QLED TVs. Same concept, they're just mini LED or LCD TVs with a quantum dot layer to sort of color convert usually blue backlighting to get a much higher color value out of LCDs. And apparently the Quest Pro will be doing this. I have to really comment that the fact that they're doing all these mini LED backlighting, which it will have local dimming, which is talking about that backlighting turning off and on. They also have to have the displays constantly on very bright when they are on at 10% duty cycle because of the pancake lenses, which are usually light inefficient. So I'm guessing the optical engineers had to do a lot of work to get this working, and I'm very impressed with it. Even if the resolution is not exactly what I would call usable for a productivity setting. The hardware itself is reportedly 2160 by 2160 per eye, but with all the culling and stuff going on in terms of firmware and what I've been told from my sources, the actual display resolution rendering will be only about 1800 by 1920 per eye. And again, I think that's mostly related to the stuff that you won't see in your peripheral vision and stuff related to the actual counter rotation of the panels themselves. So that's pretty much everything new we have about Meta Quest Pro. So I'm just going to do a quick recap of everything we are probably likely going to see about the Meta Quest Pro and all the specs, including price and release date that I was told from my best source. I'm always very terrified to report a price and release date, but when it comes to this source, I'm more likely to trust them. So I'm just going to re-report it and we'll see if they end up being correct. So the Meta Quest Pro is likely to use a Qualcomm XR2 processor that is not underclocked like the Quest 2. It will have 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, and 10 sensors all over the headset itself. Two of them are codenamed Canyon. They're 640 by 480. Those are the ones that would be on the side, mostly looking for tracking other objects that might be related to computer vision, constellation tracking, which is related to the IR Depth Center, setting out a bunch of IR sort of constellations, and hand tracking. Then there's the two higher resolution Glacier cameras. Again, both of these, Canyon and Glacier, are not RGB. They are black and white. But the Glacier, which are the two front ones on the front, are 1280 by 1024. They are mostly in charge of gathering depth data, pass-through, again, more related to IR constellation tracking and hand tracking as well, mostly toward the front of your view. Meta Cambria is going to be the first mixed reality focused headset where they have like a high resolution AR color pass-through, and they're doing this with one Teton camera that is about 16 megapixels RGB. They overlaid that RGB on top of the two depth Glacier cameras with some weird visual compositing going on in the software. So 16 megapixels or 2328 by 1748 resolution for that camera. Then finally, we have 5 Esker cameras, which are all related to face tracking and eye tracking, 400 by 400 resolution. And they're just one that's pointed directly middle of your sort of between your eyebrows, one per eye, and then 2 watching your lower mouth, which equals 5. Again, dual Tianjin 3 QLED panels at about 2160 by 2160 per eye, but rendering at lower due to all the cooling and other stuff going on there. Quantum dot layer for better color gamut, mini LED backlighting for local dimming, and counter rotated at 21 degrees to improve vertical FOV. They'll be using custom pancake lenses, which are reportedly quite expensive. Wi-Fi 6E capable, so again, a new standard that allows the 6 gigahertz standard for Wi-Fi, usually better for latency rather than any sort of data throughput. Improved spatial audio, and a 5,000 milliamp hour Li-ion battery that is to be charged by the dock that is included with the controllers and the headset itself, but also there is a USB-C port on the Cambria, so you can charge it that way too. Now here's where things get a little dangerous. All right, take a seat. We just came after, literally yesterday, Meta announced that they're raising the price of the Quest 2, starting at from $300 to now starting at $400 for the lowest 128 tier, which makes the 256 gigabyte Quest 2 $500. And I was told by my sources that the full kit, which includes the HMD controllers, charging pad cables, everything else in the big box, will be reportedly $1,500 US. Pretty expensive for sure. Very, very expensive. Zuckerberg reportedly has been talking, according to The Verge, to employees during meetings about how they're expecting Apple to be their biggest competitor with hardware, coming out with their first mixed reality device. And they expect their device to be much more expensive, and they're kind of positioning Cambria to be the cheaper mixed reality option that's more open. But $1,500 is pretty expensive, even the fact that the price increases from Quest 2 do bridge the gap a little bit. I was also told that the pre-orders will begin during the Mark Zuckerberg keynote at Meta Connect. I did not get a date for Meta Connect from my sources, but I did get a street or release date, which is planned to be October 25th of 2022. Again, always terrified to give price and release date predictions, but because my source has been very useful thus far, we'll see how it goes. To go over the final specs of the Meta Quest Pro controllers and my final prediction for that, I expect each of them to include a Qualcomm 662 SoC per controller to handle their own SLAM tracking with 3 IR cameras for standalone 6 DOF tracking. Again, SLAM tracking. A rechargeable, non-removable 3200 milliamp hour battery with dock charging. HD haptics, which is multiple actuators or vibration things per handle in different areas of the device, and a pressure sensor at the bottom for interesting methods and accessory possibilities, including using it as a stylus or whatever method you might want to do with that. They are noticeably heavier than the Quest 2 controllers due to all the technology they're packing in. They will launch with a Cambria HMD, and they may launch as a separate bundle with charging dock for $300 if they can work out the Quest 2 compatibility issues that I mentioned earlier in this video. That's it for Cambria, for real. I will not report on this headset leaks anymore. I don't care. It's done. It's being mass produced pretty much right now. There's nothing else I feel like can leak unless all the leaks that I've been given so far are just completely wrong. Some people question if maybe my sources are purposely feeding me leaks as a marketing technique, and that's possible, but I don't really think so. That's just talking to other people that say that this is, I don't know. Well, anyway, even though that's the end for Cambria, there is one thing I want to leave off before I end this video, and really two major things. People always ask me if people within Meta are worried about competition, and even though I did mention that, yes, that they're mostly talking about Apple for the most part, I was told by my sources that within Meta, there is way more talks, an increase of talks about competitors now, which was similar to the time that when the Valve Index released and when the HTC Vive released in 2016. So there is a notable atmosphere of competition within Meta offices. And finally, the bigger thing, Quest 3, which is supposed to release around next year, holiday season. Well, we have our first data mined resolution for the display panel they seem to be using for the prototypes for Quest 3. This is actually very similar timing to when we got our first glimpse to the Simulia data mining the Quest mini LED panels or Cambria mini LED panels last year. So I'm very certain that this LCD panel is likely going to be the final one. Again, Quest 3 is going to be the lower tier, the big jump from Quest 2 to Quest 3. Cheaper, so do not expect a lot of features from Cambria to carry over. But anyway, so Eureka 865, which is the Quest 3, has a single LCD panel running at a resolution of 4128 by 2208, which would be a 30% pixel increase over the Quest 2. And honestly, for per eye resolution, even though they're one panel instead of separate panels, pretty similar pixels resolution to Cambria, but cheaper. So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, that's all I got for now. I want to thank all my Patreons for supporting me. If you want to support me too, please go to bradsmells.com/Patreon. These people are very kind, and I think I'll have some more interesting news videos that are not related to Meta very soon. So yeah, bye.